So CellMaps is a pharmaceutical dedicated to the discovery of therapeutic targets and the development of therapies against cancers, and focus on the glycobiology. That was my research niche that I started during my PhD. We study and identified mechanisms that could explain why the cancer cell has an advantage having these markers. And the next step in our research was to develop antibodies that could recognize those glycans. So having an antibody that could specifically bind those glycans, which are expressed in cancer and not in normal cells, it's a very important tool, because we can develop immunotherapeutics, cell-based therapies based on these antibodies, very, very specific. So when we reach that point, and then we have other people asking us, like my colleague, the Nuno Ramos, asked me, so is there any other antibody like this that is already on the market? What is the perception of these markers for the clinicians? Are they also interested in these markers? Do they really perceive the relevance like you? Because we could have a perception of the relevance which is not the real one, right? I could identify a very good marker, but probably the cancer already has, or that specific cancer already has a therapy. So so we need to be always observing what the others already are using. Others, I mean the stakeholders. If I'm proposing something for therapies, so I should be aware what the clinicians are already using, what the patients already have as solutions for their diseases, and what are the businesses, what are the other companies. Probably they already have a tool like we have, or even better. And so these are the questions that we should always be asking, right? Being very aware what is our competitors, let's say, what are the unmet needs? Why we are we really able to make a difference? When we enter into a research group, there are different stages of research. It could be more fundamental, less fundamental. Maybe at that moment of our career, I think it's the best is to focus on the PhD. If there is an opportunity for a business, maybe it's not right in the first moment that is perceived. And sometimes the opportunities are right there. It's just a matter of us to be focused. And if we are not real focused, if we are, okay, this is probably what we are, I'm not really happy, this is taking for me too long to get results, I didn't succeed at first time, the hypothesis I had was not correct, never give up. I think it's my advice. Be resilient, again, and being focused. Obviously, then there is another component which is very important, to be aware of that opportunities, because if we have the training is very important, because for instance, in our case, we were not really aware how to write a patent, what is needed, what are the requirements for a patent. So it was was a challenge, and it was very important for us to learn, because it put us in the perspective at that moment, what is the value of that. And I would love to have that training much earlier in my life. So I'm glad that the universities now are paying more attention on that, to the early training of the students. Training on the intellectual property, also on the established writing projects and how to manage them. It's also important, because we should be focused, right, as a PhD, but also to know how the works matter, right? How we are integrated in the ecosystems, why we have money and the resources to work, how they arrived. This is very important. And then another advice will be the partnerships. Always leaving the doors open. because it's a small world. Sometimes we come back to the same persons again. So it's always good to leave the doors open and learn, knowing that the partnerships we have, it's always a way for us to learn, right? To go further, to expand our knowledge.